Hello and welcome, everybody. I have taken a little time to break down a standard using our essential standard chart. So I'm going to briefly go through each area and just kind of walk through what I did to break down this 8th grade math standard. First off, we have 6 areas to our sheet for our essential standard chart. First is the description of the standard. When we're looking at that, that is basically what is the essential standard that we are looking at or unit, and how are we going to break that down into what we expect our students to know and do. So for the description of standard, we're using know and apply the properties of integer exponents to generate equivalent numerical expressions. So when I was looking at that standard and thinking about skills that I thought that students would need to do with this standard, first was students will be able to raise negative numbers to a power. Students will be able to recognize that negative numbers raised to an even power produce different products when parentheses are used. Students will be able to identify the base and exponent, and students will be able to use multiplication strategies to demonstrate the meaning of exponents. So that is sort of my I can statements with that standard. I'm sure if you ask the math department, they may have a few more. That's what I took from breaking down that standard last evening. Example of rigor, when you're looking at these symbols that look like carrots, those are actually exponents on the computer. So 5 cubed times 5 to the square root of 4. Breaking that down, that would be adding the exponents together. 5 cubed plus 5 to the square root, or I'm sorry, again, 5 to the cube plus the square root equals 5 to the square root of 7. So that is a very basic version. I could have put more of those formulas in to this document, but it's really hard with the square root symbol being a caret and everything else. So that's one example of rigor. Prerequisite skills. I dove into some earlier standards. Students first work with whole number exponents in 6th grade, so knowing that prerequisite skill helps us. So when we do take these essential standard charts and we start to vertically align them with the middle school, we're able to have those conversations about when this occurred and really how deep it is on their essential chart. Did they spend a few days on it, or will the kids really know this? Has it been brushed upon in 7th grade as well? So we'll be able to engage even more prerequisite skills when we're talking and going vertical. But it's good to know that background knowledge. At this grade level, students will build upon that knowledge to understand the properties of integer exponents and numerical bases and patterns of repeated multiplication and division. So what is it that our students will already know when introducing the standard? And I know you ask them, have we done this before? And sometimes you get the no answer. I've never seen this before. But you do know there's some background knowledge there, so it helps you connect and know when you're loading in your lesson how long you want to spend on that background knowledge. Students use their knowledge of exponents as repeated multiplication, develop, and create equivalent expressions. 8th grade will be the first time students raise negative numbers to a power, so that's a good thing for me to know is that 8th grade will be the first time that they've used those negative numbers to a power. When is it taught? Really, I don't know when you would actually teach this in 8th grade. I put early October because it's one of the earlier standards, so could even be August, September, but that helps us. This column here is going to help you as you're going through a class this year, and your units okay, so when I'm teaching in August, these are the standards I'm hitting, September, October, November. So as you're working through this document and you're teaching throughout the year, start thinking about when things are taught, and then this will help us better align our essential standards. Keep in mind we're talking essential. That doesn't mean we're not teaching other things. I know you've heard this a million times, but this is the nice to know versus the need to know. Our essentials are the need to know standards. All right, so a common summative assessment. Don't get stuck on common when you look at this. Just think about your assessment and how you're going to break that standard down into the class. I started with a formative assessment, checking for understanding. So after the first lesson, I may give them an exit slip with 3 questions to see who got it within my class. Are they understanding? Do they understand what that essential standard that I'm teaching them? So they'll be able to show that with an exit slip. I'm able to take those and group them into students that know and don't know. So on that second day, I'll regroup them again. We'll go through and guide students on working through those more questions in groups together. And then if I feel confident, maybe be that day and maybe a few days down, I'll begin to work in the extension skills. So those deeper understandings of the standard. We'll again work in groups. After they work through a set of problems, we will do a whole group Quizlet review towards the end. So that's another formative assessment that I put in there. And then within the unit test, and I put 3 weeks, this section will be covered with 10 questions to see if the standard was met. So that doesn't mean that I'm not assessing other standards, but I'm going to be able to pull from that assessment these 10 questions, and I'm going to be able to know how many got 10 out of 10, how many got 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, etc. So when we're looking at proficiency, we would probably say 8 out of 10 of those questions, if they got them right, those students would be proficient. And that is the type of data that we're looking to bring to our PLC team and have conversations around, if only 40% of my students were proficient, what do you guys suggest I do to get more students proficient on the standard? So what's some instructional strategies that you can provide to me? Well, here's what I've given my students, and have conversations around instruction, which that's where that true PLC and that data comes into play. And that's what we're looking to get to. Over here, the extension standards, standards or skills. So I just put in some formulas there using negative numbers and that sort of thing. So that's just a quick overview of the central standard chart. And sorry for stumping myself through the example of rigor, but I have not done 8th grade math for a very long time. Now, I had some questions about our other document when we started the year. I had some questions about whether or not we're using this document or we're using the ready endurance leverage section. So think of it like this. As you're working through your standards, they should meet certain criteria in order to be essential. For the first one here is readiness. And that is, the standard may be essential if it provides students with essential knowledge and skills necessary for success in the next class, course, or grade level. Try not to get stuck on the next class or the next course or grade level. Think of readiness through the lens of college, career, and citizenship. So what is it we want, because especially at the high school level, what is it that our students need to be ready outside of, say, college or career ready, based on what we're teaching them? So this is the thing that they need the most when they leave us. Could be also moving from geometry to algebra 2, but think about it past that. Widen your scope lens when you think about those things. Endurance, the standard may be essential if it provides students with knowledge and skills that are useful beyond a single test or a unit of study. So does it have endurance to go past a unit or a single test? Is this something that they're going to see again? If I'm teaching algebra, are they going to see this again in algebra 2? Is it very foundational that they will need within algebra 2, or is this something that is quick and done? Like, for instance, Roman numerals. Nice to know how many times are they going to use Roman numerals when they're taking other math classes, or if I'm thinking about it in middle school, are they going to use it in high school? Probably not. Therefore, it wouldn't be essential. Assessment is the A, and we really don't worry about assessment. I didn't put that on the original document because we have a new state test this year, so we don't really know what's going to be on it yet. As we get item analysis, we're able to look at our freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and say, okay, so how many of them missed certain things on the test? Maybe that might be something that we want to deem as essential down the road to teach, because they are not getting it on the state assessment. And lastly, leverage. The standard may be essential if it provides students with knowledge and skills that will be of value in multiple disciplines. So this is where it comes into play. This is where reading standards are taught in social studies and different places. Where is leverage is how can it be used across multiple disciplines, which meaning other content areas throughout. If I'm doing graphing, that's something that can be used in science class as well, or science essentializing graphing, knowing that it's needed in a math class. So that's what leverage has to do with that. So those are things we want to be thinking about, and not just putting essential standards on because we think they are, but they should meet this criteria along the way. So that document on the side is something to help you, but not essential. It is essential, I'm sorry, but not. The document is to help you, just to assist you. Now, I had a question the other week. People were sort of overwhelmed. Well, a couple people were, and they came to me, and that's totally fine. I don't want you to be overwhelmed with that chart we gave you. This is a process. I'm not expecting a due date like by December we need to have all that entire chart done. Think about it and work on that document as you get through the year. Sort of backlog what you've done this year and that you would deem essential, and breaking it out in that document. And this is to help you plan, and it's also to help our conversations again as we go vertical. So I hope this little mini tutorial helped you out. It's my first time doing this screencast, so hopefully everything is all good when I run it back. Thank you.